Joining us now to discuss is Republican Congressman from Texas. That is Pat Fallon. Congressman, good to see you, and thanks so much for coming on here. I want to ask you about this, kind of diving into this. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi telling reporters, not the president, that a bill that would transfer the authority to raise the debt limit from Congress to the Treasury Secretary, quote, has merit. Should the Treasury have that authority?
John, thanks for having me on. Absolutely not. I would disagree with the speaker, as I do often, and I would call it meritless. To move something as important as raising the debt ceiling in a country that has nearly a $29 trillion debt from Congress, 535 people elected directly by the American public, to an unelected bureaucrat is a horrible idea. It's egregious, but it's not a surprise because the Democrats want to make it easier to create even more debt.
The speaker went on then to get snappy with reporters about that $1 trillion spending package, saying this, and I'll play it for you. Media, should be selling it to America. Here's that.
Well, I think you all could do a better job of selling it, to be very frank with you, because every time I come here, I go through the list. Family and medical leave, climate, the issues that are in there. And, but it is true, it is hard to break through when you have such a comprehensive package.
Does it show a broader picture of Democrats and their thought process behind the media? When they come up with ideas, there's this assumption that the media should push their ideas, and perhaps they're not doing it at this time the way the speaker would like, and why?
Sean, there's no doubt that the Democratic Party, particularly their leadership, looks upon the mainstream media as their propaganda wing. And they get very angry when they're asked even fair and tough questions. They like softballs with the wind to their back so they can, hit those out of the park, because quite frankly, their ideas are so incredibly bad. They need to own the message and dominate the message. And that's why oftentimes conservative voices, or if anybody just reasonably questions their agenda, they get shouted down, or they use pejoratives and name calling, because at the end of the day, the speaker has shown herself to be nothing more than a bully.
Moving to Senator Elizabeth Warren saying that not everyone is going to get what they want on the spending package. Clearly, it's been back and forth with various senators and other proposals, but here's Senator Warren.
Nobody is going to get everything they want, and that includes all the senators.
Right.
5-0. Not just 48 are not going to get everything they want. 50 are not going to get everything they want. However, having said that, I'm not going to come here and negotiate against myself. I want the folks on the other side to put on the table what they don't want, what they want to cut.
A couple of interesting points there. She mentions all 50 senators. I'm pretty sure there's another 50 that maybe should be considered possibly into some sort of negotiation or agreement. However, that's not the way it's being done. It's being done via reconciliation, so here we are. But she does bring up an interesting point. There's this back and forth about a number, but the real question should be what items should be in this package or shouldn't be. What are your thoughts on it and how it's being negotiated?
Well, first of all, I'm glad I already ate breakfast, because listening to Elizabeth Warren makes me lose my appetite. But even as it may, it's very insightful that she said only 50, when, as you mentioned, it's 100. But that's the way they've been looking at things, because the Democrats own every lever of government. They haven't been talking with or negotiating with Republicans at all. They're not trying to be bipartisan in any measure whatsoever. But let's look, Sean, at what we're talking about. There is a consequence for this kind of runaway spending. They're claiming that inflation's up only about 5.5% year over year. But let's look at what Americans, what we need, what we have to have. Food, shelter, transportation. Food is up, or fuel is up 42% from last year. Food is up 12%. Used cars, 24.5%. And the homes, the home index, the pricing index is up 18%. So inflation is a tax on all of us for all the essentials that we need. And that's the consequence when Joe Biden, if he gets his way, adds $6.6 trillion to the debt in 1 year. So we have to back it off. And as you said, look at what is actually a need, because there are some infrastructure needs out there. But the Democrats have really used infrastructure and said it means anything that they want it to mean. It's like a socialist wish list.
I want to bring up something that you just touched on, which I think is an interesting point here, is inflation. And you throw that name around, or that nomenclature, if you will, but you point out the way it resonates. Gas prices, right? Food is up every time you go to the grocery store. You want to buy a car, you're going to pay more money, obviously. Anything you do at this point, even Social Security benefits are going to go up next year to match inflation. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on inflation says this: the American people are not looking at cost-to-cost comparisons from this year to 2 years ago, end quote on that. But aren't they?
Yeah, aren't you? I am. What do they teach us when we're small, when we're younger, when we're growing up? To work hard, save your money so you can live the American dream, that you can buy a home, that you can, have a car, that you can do a little bit better than your parents. And what inflation is doing is all that money that all of us have in our bank account has less value. And that's what frightens me is are my kids going to be able to do a little bit better? Are our children going to be able to do a little bit better? How, when we have this crushing debt and the Democrats aren't looking down the road? They don't have that vision. And that's why next November, we've got to throw them out of office because, damn it, we got to save the republic.
We'll leave it right there. Congressman Pat Fallon joining us live with his thoughts. Congressman, good to see you, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, John. Take care. God bless.